And we're back for another one. It's Speaking with Gravity, and I am Kervin.
I'm D.
And I'm Ty.
And we're the hosts of this podcast talking about mental health and how everything affects everything. As one of the hosts, I need you to know this about me. I'm a son, a brother, a husband, a father, a friend who happens to be a therapist. And when you sit with a therapist, the conversation is different. With every episode that we do, the goal is to make you think, make you feel, make you do what's best for you. I'm a therapist, but this isn't therapy. It's a podcast. And today, we're going to talk about relationships, dating. Seems to be one of the hot topics on Clubhouse. Shout out to Clubhouse. And just wanted to give y'all a couple of facts to kind of get into the topic overall. Bet y'all didn't know this. 53% of dating app users report that they have gotten more serious about their search for a relationship since the pandemic started. This is another one that's funny to me. Don't think I would be here, but anyway. About 45% said they were putting less emphasis on physical attraction than they were prior to the pandemic. Now, I don't know how I would feel about that if I was still in the game, which I'm not. So we'll just keep on moving. The coronavirus, kind of speaking on me a little bit, crisis has inspired what seems to be a surge of divorces in the United States. Not only the United States, but China, Britain, and Sweden. The national stats are not up, but one particular lawyer's office in New York were saying they were up by 48% on inquiries of what to do next when you think about divorce, I guess. And then finally, this is not really a fun fact, but I thought this would be a good segue into the topic, dating in the pandemic. And Brittany Sierra, I think I'm saying her name, did a blog about the 8 qualities to look for in a partner. She gave, look for a partner that's honest, thoughtful, respectful, empathetic, knows how to communicate, compromising, kind, and committed. And to be honest with you, that's really good. Mm-hmm. Now that I've been in my relationship for a while, of course, those are the things that I would want going forward. But, at the time when you're actually dating, you're not thinking about that. That's the furthest thing from your mind. But let me pose that question to y'all. What do y'all look for in a partner? See, this is what I'm talking about. All right. Man, hold on. Now, I don't know how long that pause was, but it was a long pause.
It was.
And females and males always want to talk about relationships. What I want. But then when you put them on the spot, what do you want? I don't know. How can you not know? Like, at this point, you've had some experience of relationship. If you were 15, 16, okay, I get that. But if you 24, 25, 28, 30, 35, 40, you should know what I like and what I dislike by now.
I'm going to disagree. Should statements.
Okay. How do you want me to put it? You know what you like.
Or you're exploring, I feel like you have to know what you want within yourself in order to know what you want within your partner. So therefore, if you are asking list A through Z of everything that I want within my partner, you got to make sure you are a reflection of those things as well. That's how I personally feel. I can't ask for something that I'm not able to deliver or working on to deliver or to give. So for me, I'm still learning. I don't know. I know I want somebody who's able to communicate effectively. I want somebody who's authentic, who's transparent. Again, things that I know within myself. But it's still loading because I don't know what it is.
Still loading. Okay.
But those are things. Someone who's them. walking in their authentic, true self.
Okay.
That's a start.
All right. All right, D. It's on you. I can't go against what you just said.
But
I feel like it's more there. Like it's all right. It's more than just wanting a person who is true to themselves, or more than wanting a person who's just gonna be honest with you. Like, okay, I'm gonna go back to me. I'm married. It'll be 15 years this year. When I met her, I knew that's what I wanted because I had an ideal of what I wanted. I wanted somebody who was quote unquote college educated. At that time, I put a lot of emphasis on it. And I get what you're saying about still loading. Like now, they might not have to be college educated. That might not be a priority. But at that time, for me, it was. And I wanted somebody who was open to being spiritual and going to church. And when I say open, like it was important. I didn't want somebody who was just whenever. I grew up, I'm a PK. I'm a preacher's kid. So I grew up always going to church. And I wanted that as a part of my life. And I want us to go together, right? Okay. So, and she was willing to do that. And then the physical side of it, she is what I wanted physically. I don't want to get into all of that right now, but she was what I wanted physically. That has not changed. Okay. She's still what I want physically. But then the other parts that you're talking about, somebody being true, somebody being honest, yeah, of course I wanted that. But I wanted some superficial stuff too. And I think those that I just said was somewhat superficial. But at the time, that's what I wanted. And then I got into the rest of the stuff that she was. Now that I explained that, are you gonna change your answer, D?
No,
or are you gonna keep it?
I will keep it true. I think I'm with Ty on this. I feel like I'm still understanding it truly what I actually want. Mm-hmm. I know that when I think about a person being elected, to pursue in that nature, I think of somebody that really genuinely likes laughing, because I'm a clown, so laughter is my nature. I do like a person who's ambitious and who is aspiring to achieve more. I put a lot of emphasis on a person that truly is embracing, and I'm with Ty, just embracing who they are in their present moment, because I think if you're able to be real with yourself, then you'll be able to be real with me, and we can be real with each other, and we can grow. And I do like a person that's emotionally intellectual, like understand, the way in which you feel. And I like a person who stops and thinks. Like, that's a powerful thing for me, when you can stop and think and assess a situation before you immediately react. And I have to catch myself doing it. So I like for a person who can mirror those type of things, and a person that's spontaneous. Like, call me up, let's go out, and you gotta love to go out to eat, because that's my thing. Shout out to all my favorite restaurants. I just like, a person that's really, what I'm saying, just open to just being there. And I mean, I truly am looking for a provider, a person that I really feel like I can let down my guard for, and what I'm saying, be able to be totally free and not have to be concerned. And that's, to me, when you can let that guard down, that's it.
And you sold it. You said it's similar to what Ty said, but you sold it better. And
wait.
Yeah, she did. She sold it better. But I will say, you did add at the end that I wanted somebody to be a provider. And I didn't need her to be a provider, but I wanted somebody that I can have kids with. Mm-hmm. And I saw her as that mother, a possible mother of my children. My uncle used to tell us growing up, he used to say, well, you don't want to plant seeds on any ground. Right. You need to plant it. You look for good ground to plant it on. Right. So if I'm going to have kids, I want to have kids with somebody that I like the characteristics that they present, that they bring to the table, be that the comedy side, be that the being open-minded, so on and so forth. There's so many other characteristics that I can say. But yeah, you definitely sold it better. But y'all are saying pretty much the same thing, and I'm cool with that. Now that we got that out of the way of what we think we want, right? How we
Still
find
loading.
it? Yeah, still loaded. How are we finding it? Or how do I? And I just said earlier that some people are on dating apps. I said.
Right.
Is that the only way in this current in 2021? I ain't gonna even say pandemic. In 2021, is that the only way to meet people? Back in the day when I was meeting people, you had to actually go up and talk to them. So
It's definitely not the only way, to meet people. Again, I think having social media, that platform alone has elevated the realms of dating and making it more accessible to others.
yeah, definitely more accessible.
I mean, but even going back to the traditional way, some people still have that approach of going up and shooting their shot, as they would say. And speaking of shooting their shot, that's another way. People, quote unquote, hopping into other people's DMs and letting them know, hey, I have an interest in you, or whatever the case may be. I don't even know if people still write letters, do they?
That would be so sweet.
Look,
That used to happen,
Me?
Yes or no?
Maybe.
I will say, if any males decide that they want to come do therapy with me, that will be one of your assignments. Maybe not necessarily verbatim one of your assignments, but I have put that out there before to go back to that. Put it on, because you can't interrupt a letter. You
can't.
write it,
You
you put down all your thoughts on that letter and you convey it, and then when you see each other again, now it's an opportunity to kind of expand and explore what was on that letter. So I think writing a letter is super, super dope, which I haven't done that recently, but still, I still think it's dope. I was gonna say I had another question. I need to start writing this down as y'all start talking. But when you were giving about shooting your shots, how should somebody shoot their shot?
Again, I don't like should statements.
What is this with this should statements?
Because it's just one direct way. Should means it's that's the way it should be done. It has to be done. Should mean it has to be, but could.
Okay, could. I need to start using could. Okay. All right.
Ways.
What are ways that one could shoot their shot that would be presentable or not make you turn your nose up and say, nah, next?
I think that's based on the individual person, because every person's preference and how you approach or interact with them is different. Like, for me personally, when a dude come up and start talking trash, like, that's my go-to. Like, I love it. Like, who you talking to? You know what I'm saying? Like, but I understand. And then when I guess I need to clarify when I say talking trash, though, I mean it in terms of, like, straighten your face up. Like, why you looking like that or something like that? You know what I'm saying? Just challenging my present state of being to where, you're opening dialogue, you're opening that communication, and you're allowing it for more. I do like, somebody just come up and say, hey, how you doing? But that coming up, throwing money, all that stuff, that's not anything that appeals to me. The D pics, total uninterested. The D pics.
Oh.
And so,
Yeah, see, I wasn't ready.
Nudity photos,
yeah,
you
nudity
guys.
photos. Yeah, y'all know what the D pic is. And every female that knows that has received some unwanted D pic at some point. And so, it's just a way in which
we should not be doing that, fellas.
Yeah, please stop.
No.
Especially when there is no substance. Please stop.
Yeah.
But again, when we're, I think it ultimately just boils down to that person. And I think that's one of the challenges I think I have with it, is because a lot of people present themselves on these dating sites different from what they are in reality. And so you get to hide behind that. So I think technically the more that we have in this dialogue, I think I am still the traditional way. Like, I like that personal interaction because I vibe off the energy and the presence of a person, because to me that's authentic. You can't fake that for them. Like, body language speaks its volume. So I guess, and as we're evolving, I'm answering these questions.
You wouldn't like the texting back and forth or the DMs back and forth because you don't get to feel the energy?
I mean, I would say that some people are better communicators in person than they are typing or texting or whatever, because if you like me, if I get to typing too fast, you're not gonna know what I'm talking about. So you'll be like, who is this on the other side of this platform? You know what I'm saying? So I think being in person, and I know that doesn't challenge my writing skills, but you know, when you're passionate about something or you doing multiple things in different times, it can happen. So that's for me, my preferences. But
what was the question again?
She was hoping we skipped over.
I was, but what's the question again? Because I was stuck on that should part. You know,
what? Yeah, you're right. What could someone? How could someone approach you in the manner where you actually would entertain them? And I'm saying you, but you know, for people listening to this podcast, like, especially if it's men want to know, like, how do I come at you, because it's all right. So from my perspective, what I'm seeing is, and I hear this, you don't know me, don't jump into my DM. Well, I'm trying to get to know you, right? So I'm gonna introduce myself somehow, right? And even if I say, hey, how you doing, but I don't get no response back, I didn't do anything wrong, I wasn't janky, but I get no response. As a respectable young man, what am I supposed to do if I'm interested in you? How am I supposed to convey that where you would be able to say, okay, let me see what he about?
I think for me, and I know, again, and this also includes some of our listeners, just being you, you know, and if I see you saying, hey, how are you? I'm going to be courteous enough to say, hey, I'm well, how are you? Depending on who you are now. But I wouldn't just possibly leave you on red because your delivery, it was okay. It was approachable. Hey, how are you? Hey, I'm well, how are you? Well, my name is Bob, and I'm digging you, or whatever the case may be. I feel one should be intentional about what it is that they want and being specific about why you are inboxing me. Cut straight to the point. Hey, I'm Bob, and I find you very attractive, and I'd like to get to know you more. But it also depends on the person who's receiving those messages too, because you have to think about who you are approaching. That delivery style may not work for them. They may like something different. So I think it varies. There is no one way. Just be you. You come being yourself, and you can't change that. So just show up authentically and go from there. And if they're not receptive to it, on to the next, because you know what it is that you want.
Before on to the next one, though, I just wrote this down. Like, all right, so you said, you know, you would be cordial. You would say, hey, back. It's okay for you to say, hey, how you doing? Mm-hmm. It's just okay. And you had said earlier, you kind of want somebody who'll be willing to straighten your face up, talk a little trash, right? Mm-hmm. So if I came at you and just said, hey, how you doing? I'm not talking trash. Then you might leave me on red. If you leave me on red, now I might say, all right, I want to be persistent. What is too far? Like, how persistent should I be? Again, I'm not like, I think I am a connoisseur, but I felt like I never overstepped my boundaries. I was never too persistent in the past. If I was interested, I let you know I was interested, and then there was a time to fall back. Mm-hmm. What's too much? Or when is it time to fall back for a guy?
I think when you talk about being left on red, I'm with Todd though. If you come in my box, hey, how you doing, or hey, what's up, I'm going to give you that same courtesy and acknowledge the conversation. If you express your interest or whatever you do and I respond, that's cool. But I think once you get your response, if you say I'm pursuing you XYZ, if I come back and say, oh, I'm not interested, or I appreciate that, but I got a man, what's too far is you coming back and saying, what's your man got to do with me? Or, you know what I'm saying, you coming back and now you attacking me, or you wasn't all that to begin with. Okay, I wasn't bothering you. So, I mean, the fact that you know what I'm saying, now you got a problem with rejection. And I think that's a lot of what men struggle with when we talk about
women,
you know,
too.
Women too.
Yeah. Say women now.
Women
you can't
too.
tell
But
me what a man is struggling with. You can't tell me that.
Well,
Let me say that.
What people sometimes struggle with.
But we do.
Individuals struggle with is the idea of rejection. And just because, you're not somebody's cup of tea doesn't mean you're still not tea. You know what I'm saying? You're somebody's it, but you just may not be the person you're pursuing's it. So I think, just taking that and moving forward with it. I know that I'm physically not for everybody's taste, and that's fine because I'm not for everybody to taste. I was laughing when you said your uncle told you, you know what I'm saying, plant your seed everywhere, because grandma always told me you can't pass your stuff out to everybody. You know what I'm saying? Good stuff you don't give to everybody. You have to be careful. So, I'm okay with, you know what I'm saying, that platform or that mindset. But I think you got to be careful how you just talk to people, because as a female, even if I'm not interested in that present state, even if I say no, it doesn't necessarily mean it's anything about you. It could be about me. But now you don't put it to where it's about you and it has nothing to do with you. So just respect my response, whatever it is. And then, if give it a little time. You can come back in a few months later. Hey, just wanted to come back and check on you, because you never know where I'm going to be at in that moment. But don't send 5 messages back to back to back to back. Hey, beautiful, hey, beautiful, hey, beautiful. Or start with, hey, how you doing? What you doing? Hey, how you doing? What you doing? Like, elaborate. Let's go somewhere. And some women offering some cash outs or something, just depending on who she is,
I'm not giving out any cash out anytime soon.
I'm just telling you what some people's preference is. Money's peaks for some women. I've seen women post that. Not necessarily my preference, but that for some women is like, if you gonna talk to me, show me that you about that life. You know what I'm saying? And that's some women's concept. Right or wrong, they entitled to that.
Yeah, they are. I better not find out my daughter sending out her cash out. That's gonna be some problems for me, for her, and whoever sending the money. But when you were talking about, when you said that about the statement with your grandma, I thought about the last episode, Living While Black. We have those statements, don't we? They just carry on from generation to generation, and a lot of us are able to connect with them. This is super dope. But going back to when you were saying rejection, you think men have that problem with rejection, and we do to some degree. But also the thought is, who's gonna screenshot what I sent, or who's gonna, you walk up to a group and you've said something to somebody previously. Who's gonna say, yeah, he tried to get at me, and you might be trying to get at somebody differently now? Y'all got to quit that. Y'all can't keep passing names out about who been trying to holler at you, especially if it was in a respectful manner.
Right.
But and that can end up blocking somebody, because they find out that you tried to holler at such and such, and which had nothing to do with them at the time that you was trying to holler, but it just comes out.
But I feel like even if you shot your shot at, XYZ, that really has nothing to do with me. I feel like we got to get out of that, because that's the nature of getting to know people. Like, I may have pursued you in an interest, but if it didn't go anywhere or you didn't respond, then it's really not even relevant. Like, if you tried to holler at Ty 6 months ago, she left you on red. You come back, 6 months later, and you're trying to hit me up, and we pursue it, and we go forth. Like, I'm not caring that you shot at her before. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. And I feel like a lot of times when males or females do that, it's because they want to kind of dismiss, what somebody has the ability to offer, or it's really to interject, oh, well, they wanted me first. But at the end of the day, everybody wanted the job first. You might not get it the first time, right? But at some point, somebody's going to get terminated, and then you may come next. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you weren't a good enough candidate at that time. It just means somebody saw something else that they were interested in. But I feel like it's a season for everything. If we go off of that, it's a lot of people that would be single. Waiting on what so-and-so tried to talk to me first. I mean, I know people that still talking about, well, I used to go with them in high school. Okay, baby, we 30. Like, we 30 and up now.
15 years past high school.
I mean, you talk to them in high school, and I'm supposed to now pass up on a potential partnership. Sweetheart, y'all couldn't even talk on the phone after 11. Let's be generous. But that's just where we are in this day and time. And I think you just really have to personally make that decision for yourself. Now, it's a difference if I feel like y'all was, went a little deep and emotions was all invested, and now you coming and saying, well, now I want to pursue you. I think now that's something we have to look at differently, and we have to assess that situation a little different. But in terms of just you shot your shot and it got shot down, and now you ready for your rebound?
You was I was going there. I was gonna go there where you just went. So what if I'm gonna give you a scenario. Person. They're a couple's dating. They went all into it, but they were definitely a couple. Everybody knew they was a couple. Boom, 3-4 months, and then bam, it's over with. 7 years later, a person that the girl's friend decided to date the guy that she used to date. That a violation? It's like 7 years later, and it was only 3 or 4 months.
I wouldn't do it. Depending on the nature of the friendship that I have with this woman, because I feel
closer
like,
it is.
Yeah, I feel like if you were what I call you a friend and you were to date someone who I was seriously involved with post high school, post college, I'm gonna have some issues with that. I'm just gonna look at you and them differently. But you have the right to date who you want, but I'm just gonna question the relationship moving forward.
What if y'all not as tight? Y'all, cool. Y'all just alright.
I still may not like you because you're dating someone that I used to date. I'm just gonna be real, and that may sound immature, but I'm being real. That human part, the emotion part that comes in, it's like, but if you are ultimately wanting your previous partners to be happy, I'm happy that you happy. That's all that matters.
One of the things I like what you saying. You just being real. I think sometimes we're not honest with ourselves. Ooh. I do not ask questions I don't want to know the answer to. That has saved me. I think over the long haul. There's some things I just don't want to know the answer to, and I'm better off not knowing that answer. But that's my truth with regards to a relationship. But we got to be honest with ourselves for what we. That's why I always ask, what do you like? What do you want? What are your expectations in a relationship? Where did we always assume that we know what the expectations is? Somebody, I'm just gonna just throw it out here. Somebody might go into a relationship and feel like I'm not planning on being monogamous or completely that person, and then the other person thinking, okay, we're in a relationship, this is supposed to be monogamous. We all assume it for the most part, but if we don't never put it out there what the expectations is, did that person really violate it?
There was some misunderstanding. I think you brought up a good point. I was listening to a podcast segment. They were just talking about relationships, and a lot of the men were just specifying expectations and how we have to be really clear about what our expectations are, because everybody's level of our expectation is different. So, for instance, you're saying Bob telling, I don't know why I keep using these European names, but Bob telling Sarah that
I don't understand.
It just come quick. That therapy mindset, but that's another conversation. But Bob telling ultimately Sarah that, I want a monogamous relationship, and if Sarah hasn't come to terms like, really, what does that mean? And if Bob didn't provide more details, there could be some confusion. But I fought both in a sense, because if I don't understand what that means, I'm gonna ask before we continue to commit to this relationship. So I think we all have to really be clear and intentional about our expectations without the assumption that everybody know what I mean. Yeah. And I may have to give a list of examples. This is what I mean when I say this. Is that something you still want to agree with doing and moving forward?
I'm going to have to play a little bit of devil's advocate, though, because I think...
Don't do it.
I do. I think because we can't always tell people what we want, because then I think people have the opportunity to portray themselves as something that they're not. So I think, you know what I'm saying, it's important to clearly understand what it is that you're looking for, and when you interact with a person, they either meet it or they don't. And that may be why I'm single. But I think in terms of I think we spend too much time trying to tell people what we're looking for, and we pour all out, and so people, portray themselves to be that. and then years on down the road, there's only so long you can fake something. You know what I'm saying? Where you really become in tune with who you are. And now, you know what? Now I'm noticing, okay, you said X, Y, and Z, but you're doing A, B, C. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, well, you know, we good now. You know what I'm saying? Because emotionally, you know, you've gotten to a different level. And, you know, I was listening to a Clubhouse again, shout out to Clubhouse, and they were talking about oftentimes women date intentionally. Like most women, not all.
Men date intentionally too.
Not always.
No, we really do date intentionally. Our intentions are totally different from y'all, right, okay. But we definitely date intentionally. I agree with
you. But with women, it's the intentions of, you know, pursuing a mate or a spouse in a companion yeah. in longevity. You know what I'm saying? In most cases, and so when you're looking at it as that's what she's going in. I have known women know a man for 2 weeks, and they're cutting off everybody they used to talk to. You know, they changing they home screen. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's bait automatically. The name changes, the emojis, everything. Where it's not always the same for men. You know what I'm saying? And so when you have a woman in that spacing, she's really letting herself, you know what I'm saying, transition into this, and she's seeing a future automatically. And I think one of the dangers is with us sometimes as women is we fall in love with the potential of people, and we see what we want to see. And when Ty was talking about, you know, communication, sometimes we hear what we want to hear, not what that person is saying. So you're sitting here telling me you don't want a relationship, but I'm hearing you don't want a relationship right now. So I think if I stay a little bit longer, I'm doing X, Y, Z, eventually, you know, you gonna come in. So now you get into the gist of what we're doing, relationship things, but you haven't put us in a relationship. Here I am in my mind saying, oh, well, we doing everything now. We in a relationship. And then I see you over here with, you know, Shay. And I'm like, where she come from? But then your response to me is, I told you I didn't want a relationship. So that's why I think it's the mind saying, even with the communication, you still have to be careful about it, because people can hear what they want to hear, and I'm not responsible for what you heard. Right. You know what I'm saying? I am responsible for what I portray, what I give to you. You know, that's when I feel like it's a difference when I say something or I do something that doesn't align. So actions and words together, to me, define what we need to be pursuing.
I think that's a good point. It is, and you definitely want to proceed with caution, you know, because some people are manipulative, right. You know. So if I'm coming at you with all of these expectations and you do whatever it is that you think that I said I wanted, and then you could just complete fraud, then it's like, dang. You know, I did tell them all of these things and they delivered, but that wasn't the true person, you know. But also, too, I think when you talked about self, you really have to have knowledge of self and knowing what it is that you want. So when you are seeking that additional companionship, because you can find that within yourself, then you'll be okay with, well, Bob really doesn't align with the things that I want, and it's okay. On to the next, you know, and still being okay with being by yourself and understanding that when we're with someone, we're just adding to their levels of happiness, but true happiness lies within. So having a partner or a spouse, you know, it's just something, it's added to it, but yeah, and I'm gonna leave that there.
Yeah. Well, I like a question. I want to pose a question. So what are your guys' thoughts? You know, I've always been told, even when a little girl, you write down what it is you truly want. So, you know, you have your list of, you know, 6'3", whatever, dark skin, light skin, whatever your preference is. Do you guys feel like that's a realistic task? Should a person write down what they want? And then if a person is not everything that's on your list and you decide to be in a relationship with them, are you settling?
That's good question. I think it is a realistic task to do, to put it out there. And we've all said this at some point or another. We're constantly growing. Right. So that list needs to change with your growth. What we get stuck at is, I wrote this list at 16. And now here I am, 26, still looking at this list. Now, I'm 5'7". I know 6'3" ain't got nothing on me. As you get older, you realize 6'3", 5'7", as long as he's doing those other things, it don't matter. So some of those, again, superficial things, I'm not saying don't put them down, because in that moment, it's important to you. Right. But as you grow older, and I'm saying as you grow older, as you become wiser, it ain't about the age. As you become wiser and you have those experiences, then you start taking some of those superficial things away, because one day 6'3" or not, if he do get older, he gonna start bending over. He ain't gonna be 6'3" no more. He gonna be 6'1". He gonna be 6 feet. So all of that stuff ain't. As long as we're able to go back and change the list and just adjust it accordingly, then that's okay. I like that.
I'm echoing what Kervin said. I think it's okay if you want to have that list, but that list is going to change. You know what I mean? And as you're evolving and changing as a being, it could change. And just being realistic. That's being realistic, you know, and being realistic with what it is that you want. But also, and this is just me, I feel if I'm going to ask something again, I said it earlier, of somebody else, I need to make sure I have those same things in line.
So what questions are appropriate? Like y'all got my mind wondering, because like I like your response, Kervin. I like what you said in terms of, you know, your listing or your request should grow as you grow. And I think, what's your thoughts of, should this list in turns be fluid, or should you have things that are what we call, I guess, non-negotiable? Like, this person should have this. It's a determining factor of whether you. Well, in your case, you already spoken for. So, I guess, did you have those things that were like non-negotiable for you?
Yes, I didn't write it down, but what you're saying is correct. It should be fluid, and with that, I'm trying to say the word fluidity. Did I say it correctly? When you have that, you would know what's non-negotiable by what doesn't change. Mm-hmm. For me, the very her being in the church with me did not change. No matter who I was talking to, no matter what year it was, it did not change. That was really important to me. Again, I'm a preacher's kid, right? And I saw my mom and dad go to church together. I saw them. They were aligned. They were together on that. Not on just that one thing, but they was really big on that. My mom didn't care if I was an NBA player or a doctor. What she wanted me to be was holy. And my dad too. So they were right there together when it come down to that. And so that I carried, that's the one thing that I definitely carried from them, if not more. So that was definitely there. It was a couple of physical things that were there that didn't change. Long hair. I love a girl with long hair. The natural look is cool, right? But for some reason, I always liked the long hair. And that's what I was attracted to. That never changed. Now, did I date people that didn't have long hair? Yes, because I'm open-minded enough to do that. And my intentions was different at different times. But those are one superficial thing that didn't change and one thing that was really relevant that didn't change. In addition to being a mother of my kids, like I needed somebody who was going to be nurturing. I'm not the nurturing type at a very young age. Like I'm getting too far into that. I was there, but like I was always like, I can't wait till they get 12, 13 so I can have these adult-like conversations with them. You know, at 4 or 5, you can't have, I'm not that guy to have a whole conversation with a 4-year-old. Now I will with my 6-year-olds, but she's so freaking advanced. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a different generation of children. They coming out asking us therapeutic questions.
Yeah. But that's my thoughts on that. Ty, you can dig me out the hole. Did I get in the hole?
Again, your response is your response based off your own experiences and the things that you see from, I guess, an objective standpoint.
I guess objective.
You know, I think it just aligns with, you know, what you as an individual value. You know, I do think it should be fluid, the list, or it could be fluid. And it is subject to change, you know. And again, if certain things aren't negotiable because of, again, it may align with your values and your belief system, then that's okay. Right. It's simply okay. But again, the other person may not agree with it, and that's, again, it's simply okay. On to one who may fit into this list that you have of your ideal potential partner.
Right.
You look like you got a whole bunch of questions over
right.
Man.
Your mind going every which way now.
No, I was just thinking about, you know, just different things, and I'm listening to, you know, you guys, what you're saying, and one of the things that always comes to my mind is something that we all, I've heard us all collectively kind of respond on, and that's, kind of implementing these boundaries. And I think that's when you come into terms about knowing yourself and knowing what it is that you want. I think those are two critical things. And so, I guess now as we're listening, as we're talking and having this open dialogue, is thinking if, kind of making me think about when you ask the question, what it is that you want. If I don't have an answer, then that means I'm subjective and open for anything. And so now I'm wondering, why isn't XYZ not working? Right, yeah, I'm getting anything. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I'm not getting anything of substance because I'm not putting out that substance is what I'm desiring. So, this conversation is really, solidifying me and my thought process in terms of you really truly have to know what you want. It's not just about the image of a relationship. It's not just about even just the companionship of it. It's about being intentional and, being specific to what you truly need. I always refer back to, knowing your love languages and things of that capacity, but it's even a little bit deeper than just your love language, because your love language still entails about you, but how you communicate and know how to facilitate that love to other people, because you can receive love, but can you give it? Right. You know what I'm saying? And so learning how to process and understand the person that you're pursuing in that capacity. So deep convo.
When you brought it to the table, Ty, when you said that about self-awareness, knowing who you are. I'm gonna jump on emotional intelligence in a minute, but self-awareness is big. Like, just think about, like, we're in this big old world, right? And we're dating people in this big old world. When we go to the grocery store, either you got a list with certain things on it, you get in and you get out, you get the stuff on the list, or you got a general idea. Or what about those times that we go to the grocery store and we like, okay, I need some groceries. Then you go in there and you'll find a whole bunch of stuff when you get home. Like, well, what was this? Why I even get this? And I ain't get something to match up with something. But then when I have a general idea, but I didn't write it down, I got a general idea, I got a lot of the stuff that I want, but I may have forgotten something, or something still might not match up. But when I wrote that list down, I got exactly what I wanted, exactly what I need, and was able to make whatever I needed for that day or going forward. We'll do that for these simple things, but we won't do that in our own life. That's crazy.
Because we want to take the time out to sit with self, love me, be compassionate to myself, be nurturing to me, so that I one, reciprocate that and show that to others, but two, I want that same thing in return. But I got to do that for me first to know what it feels like and to be able to show others that. And I think, too, what you said, it's kind of like cut and dry to an extent. If I got this list of things that I know I want when I'm going into this grocery store, it should apply to dating, too. I got these list of expectations that's subject to change, because we change and we evolve, and so do other people. But I pretty much ain't going outside of this list. And me understanding it's okay for me to move on to the next for anybody who I may choose to entertain or who I'm inquiring about that don't really fall in this list that I have, or this category of items, that I have.
When you got that list, you wrote that list down. Yeah. Ain't nobody else wrote that list down. So when you get what you wrote on the list, that's what you work with. That's what you deal with. If you get into that relationship, you get married, you working with that list that you wrote down. You don't just give it up and throw it away. Be like, I wrote the wrong thing down. You had plenty of time to think about this. You had plenty of time to kind of gather your thoughts together. But when you said that about, again, going back to self-awareness and knowing who I am and sit with yourself, what has this pandemic caused us to do? Sit with ourselves, sit with our companions. I've seen, I read it earlier about the divorce rate, or not divorce rate, but more people inquiring about divorce. And you see, sporadically throughout social media, people saying, there are situations where people are not happy in the home. They don't have anything to take away from some of the things that they was overlooking. You can't go to work, or you're not at work as much as you are, or you always at home. Now you're seeing this person who does something that's a pet peeve of yours. They've been doing it for 10 years. But you've been able to kind of overlook it because you moving about. But now you can't overlook it. And we haven't sat with ourselves and just been really understand ourselves and even our partner to a certain degree.
Well, I think it's too, we have to explore. You can't become complacent in a relationship. Mm-hmm. And I think people, traditionally, if we're looking at it over a spectrum of time, anytime you, even in, relationship with friends or whatever, you get to a point or a place of complacency where your expectations is a person is always going to be there, or they should always be there. And even in a partnership, I think you should always be evolving your relationship, like growing and continuing to nurture it just as you would have planned. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can't just leave it there and assume that when you come back it's going to be the same. Just as we are constantly changing, the people we are with are constantly changing. And so I think what this pandemic has forced us to do is it's forced us to really sit back and see the change that we oftentimes could ignore. Because before, pre-pandemic, you could really, if we didn't really like each other or didn't get along, I could work first shift, you could work third shift. So we really, you know what I'm saying, we only had to meet in the middle, and it only could be for a brief time. Or, I could, go hang out with the boys or escape from that. But now we're in a specific place. We limitations on where we can go. There's no real escape. Our only interaction is really each other. We don't have anything. So, like, you know what I'm saying? Either we sitting in a household of substance where nothing's being said, or we're sitting in a household where, like you said, every pet peeve now, everything is being brought to surface, and now the only thing we can do is argue and tussle. So, I think it's just, really remembering what you did in the beginning to get into that relationship. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, how you got that person, the love, the excitement, the joy that you had when you were pursuing that person. Like, you can't lose that. You cannot lose it, and that person still has to be saved. And I can remember, you guys, I kid you not, when I was in graduate school, I can remember going to an assisted living facility, and a man and his wife both suffered from dementia. But when I tell you, the way that this man looked at his wife was as he was still seeing her for the very first time.
Oh, wow.
Like, his glow, his love, everything. He was like, you just so beautiful to me. Now, you don't remember that today is Friday or Thursday, but you really remember the beauty. You remember how she looked the first time you took her on a date. You remember your red car. You remember everything. And that, to me, demonstrated his genuine love for her, up into her dying day. And so that's the kind of relationship you want to pursue. You know what I'm saying? When, like, even when I can't remember anything else, I still remember the beauty of you. And that is what I saw in that compassion. Like, I can remember how he would hold her hand. And even though, she passed on, and other women, of course, if you've been in that facility, you know how it goes. But the true, genuine love he had for her was something that could not be denied by anybody. And, that's true. And they had been married over, 50, 60 years.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm talking about. So when we get people who, after 3 years, you ready for a divorce, it's because you wasn't true. Y'all were infatuated with each other. You truly wasn't in love. And that's what, you know what I'm saying? Or in essence, you may have been in love, but you didn't really process all the way through that person. Because I do believe you can have love for a person and not be in love with them. So
another podcast. That's a whole other podcast. I just want to hit briefly on this before we end it. The emotional intelligence. I think that is important for not only us as individuals to have, but the other partner, because to go along with the self-awareness, if they have the emotional intelligence to know that, hey, this person is still finding themselves, or this person is still trying to figure out some things, then they can allow that person some freedom, sometimes some space to explore, and just being aware not only of themselves but the other person and how they feel in whatever moment, whatever transition they're going through in life. I ain't gonna blast females, but men, of course, our brains grows slower than you all. I think it's complete at 28, between 28 and 30, somewhere up in there. All right. So we have these transitions in life. Sometimes they come at that moment. Sometimes they're a little bit later. They may have worked at a particular job making, X amount of dollars, and then they find out, man, I don't even want to do that no more. I've been at this job 15 years. I want something more. I just want something different. It would be great to have that person beyond their mama to support them and say, okay, he's going through a transition. Be emotionally intelligent to say, this ain't just him not wanting to work no more or tired of working. This ain't him messing up this whole providing thing that I got going on. But this is going to better him in the long run. Just having that emotional intelligence to see I need to help him through this transition instead of I need him to just be the person he's been these last couple of years for me. That emotional intelligence is so important in general. But I was just wanting to speak from that male perspective on that.
I was gonna say, because I think that's the same thing for women as well.
Yeah.
You can't escape that. I think that's across the board spectrum, because transition happens for us at the same time, and oftentimes I think it's that we become so self-centered and we focus on self. Which, don't get me wrong, that can be a positive thing, but it sometimes negates you from being able to actually put yourself in another person's actual place. And I think it goes back to what Ty was talking about earlier, just that communication. Never stop being able to communicate with your partner, no matter what stage of your relationship, because what we often do is too, we go outside and we can communicate with everybody else, and so now we've gotten everybody else's interpretation of what our relationship should be like, what it should look like, because what's my acceptable may not be your acceptable, right? And so now I'm coming back at you with all these expectations that other people have imposed into me of what I should be expecting from you, and expecting you to be able to uphold that when that's never been our open dialogue. So I think it's just that, that communication appointment, because emotional intelligence comes with time, and I think emotional intelligence is constantly elevating as you elevate, but the practices of communication and the principle of effective communications remains the same. Absolutely. Like, talk to your partner first. If you are in a position of where divorce is going to be your solution, then talk to your partner about that, because I believe if that's your solution, go to that person first, give them that respect. If we've shared a household, or we shared whatever, of this relationship is over, come to me first. Don't go tell everybody else you unhappy, you dissatisfied. Come to me first and let us have an honest, open communication about that. And I think that puts us in a place of where you're taking emotional intelligence, you're taking communication practices, you're practicing boundaries, and you are allowing us to be in a space. And it's not about all the time we talk about closure. I am for closure, but I did, engage in conversation where people say closure is not always necessary. But I feel like that's respect, and that truly allows me to see that even though you may not be in love with me or anymore, or our relationship has changed, the way in which you respect me remains the same, and that to me speaks volumes. So that's my interpretation.
Yeah, I'm not big on closure. Closure from the stand. Well, I think that might be another podcast.
Yeah, is closure necessary?
Yeah, because it's different ways to do it, and some ways are healthy. Some ways you do need that closure sometimes. But I also feel like sometimes closure doesn't allow you to break away freely. If closure isn't done correctly, it leaves you, what they call that, cliffhangers on movies and stuff. Yeah. Like when they're doing a little trailer, it leaves you like, well, maybe if this had been done differently, we could have lasted. Or maybe if I hadn't said this or done this. Yeah, it changes. Sometimes it can change the dynamics. And I think when we talk in therapy, that's why you can listen to a podcast, or you can listen to people talk like in a workshop setting. But when you go to therapy, it's tailored to you. Mm-hmm. Those therapists get to know you as a person. They're able to bring your background, that person's background, the relationship, and they can say, you know what? Nah, you don't need closure in this situation, as opposed to just listening to a generalization. So, yeah, I ain't as big on it, but I can't take away from what you said earlier. Y'all think we beat this one to death? We didn't, but y'all think we need to come out right here?
I think it's ongoing, so it's definitely a part 2 or part 3 or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's what we say, it was dating in the pandemic. I think we need to do like a relationship 101, relationship 102, because talking about just healthy relationships, how to communicate. Definitely. And so many things that we've already brought up so far, and then we gotta introduce another segment. But we're not going to do it today. But once again, I'm one of your hosts, Kervin.
I'm D.
I'm Ty.
And we're Speaking with Gravity. Check us out on Facebook. Check us out on Instagram. If something that we said made you think more in depth about therapy, or you just want to know a little bit more, you want to seek a professional in your area, please hit us up on those platforms, and we should be able to direct you in the right direction. Thank you to all of those who are associated with this particular podcast. Again, shout out to Synergy. I said this in the last podcast, for giving us a start together to be able to meet each other. And to our respective family members that supported us through our educational journey. Thank you to my wife in particular for believing in me and supporting me. Thank you to Vision Winnie. And thank you for listening, taking the time to listen to us. You could have been anywhere, you could be doing anything, but you chose to listen to us, and I appreciate that. Remember, we are therapists, but this ain't therapy. It's a podcast. And we out.